Ladies and gentlemen, today's video is very important for two particular reasons. Number one, we are talking about a core learning outcome of CMA USA Part 1, Section D, Process Costing. And the second reason is, today I'll be sharing with you the resources which I use to pass my CMA and the resources which I strongly recommend you to use in order to be successful. Ladies and gentlemen, I am the Commerce Specialist. Welcome to my YouTube channel, where you'll find videos covering learning outcomes of various academic qualifications and professional certifications, including life-changing business ideas and concepts. Primarily, there are two types of costing system: process costing and job order costing. There are many other costing systems, but in this video, we are only focusing on process costing. Process costing, the name is self-explanatory, because we are manufacturing, and the manufacturing is done in processes. So if I give you the basic idea of process costing before going to the actual working, let's suppose we are manufacturing a soft drink, and this is how it goes actually. This is the first process, second process, and the third process. Process 1, process 2, and process 3. Again, keeping in mind that we are manufacturing a soft drink. So in the first process, let's say we are talking about input of 100,000 liters of water. So in the first process, what we are going to do is, this water is purified. Okay, all the impurities are removed. So obviously there will be some cost, let's say material, labor, and overhead. Keeping example simple, 10,000 for each of this. So at the end of process 1, the total cost incurred so far is 30,000. Impurities removed. Now this water will be transferred to process 2 for further processing. Material, labor, and overhead cost will be incurred here as well. Let's say you're adding some color. You must have seen there are so many soft drinks. I don't want to name them. Some are black in color, some are orange, some are colorless. So yes, you are adding some ingredients here, maybe sugar or something. Labors would be working, overheads will be consumed. So total 30,000 of this process. When I add the process cost of the first process, so total 60,000 has been spent till process 2. Now let's say this is the second last process. The water, color, artificial color has been added, sugar has been added, other overheads have been used. Now this water goes finally, the soft drink in fact goes finally to the third process, where packing and bottling is done. So obviously some material will be used. If it is these are glass bottles or plastic bottles or maybe cans, so obviously you are using some materials, labor, and overhead. Process cost right up till the second process is 60,000 incurred so far. In the current process, we are again investing in material, labor, and overheads. So total cost of the process is how much? $90,000. And we are talking about, let's say, spending $90,000 to make 100,000 liters of a famous soft drink. So how much it comes to? 0.9 per liter. This is our basic objective. We are talking about calculating cost per unit produced, cost per liter produced. In this case, this is the cost for producing 1 liter of the famous soft drink. Now guys, problem arises when we do have the cost, let's say 90,000, but the units are not totally complete. Some units are totally complete, some units are known as finished goods, others are still in process. So life becomes easy if we divide the total cost of the process divided by the number of units made. So you can get the cost of unit. The problem arises when your production is incomplete. Some units have been finished, others are in process. So if that is the case, our issue is we need to divide this by a denominator, number of units, but all the units are not complete. So in that case, we take the help of a concept we call equivalent units of production, or you can call it equivalent production in units. What does this mean? This means if we have 4,000 units which are 100% complete, they are equal to 4,000 units. 100% complete means whatever material, labor and overhead has to be invested and incurred has already been incurred. But what if we have 2,000 units in process which are 50% complete with respect to material, labor and overhead cost? So these 2,000 units which are 50% complete are equal to 1,000 units which are fully complete. So when you add this, you get 5,000. You can call it equivalent units of production. And if that is the case, and assuming if this is the cost, we have some completed and some incompleted units. Some units are finished, others are in process. So what you can do is the cost can be divided by the equivalent units of production, which is equivalent units. And a company is able to calculate cost per unit as of now at this stage, when some are completed, others are in process. This concept is very important, equivalent production of units, because we will be using this quite frequently when we are solving exam questions of process costing. Process costing could come in your exam as an MCQ, or question from this topic could also be considered for an essay question. So you need to know A to Z how a process costing question is done from the beginning right up till the end. There's a possibility that you are required to calculate the physical flow of units. You are required to calculate units started and completed. You may be asked to calculate the equivalent units of production. You may be asked to calculate cost per unit. You may be asked to calculate what is the cost allocated to goods which are completed. You may be asked to calculate cost allocated to the work in process ending inventory. So there is a lot of possibilities. We are going to discuss them one by one. So guys, let's look at the data which is given here one by one and what does it mean. Ideally, we are given opening stock or BWIP. BWIP is beginning work in progress, and there are 300 units. The stage of completion is given. They are 60% complete as to material, 70% complete as to CC, means conversion cost. Conversion cost is a combination of labor and overheads. Likewise, we are also given the cost incurred so far on this opening stock. These 300 units, because they are incomplete, but some cost has been incurred. How much? In terms of material, 500, conversion cost 1000 has been incurred so far. So this is the details for the opening stock. Then comes unit started. Unit started can also be called input if we are the first process. If we are the second process, that means the first process completes their job and they send the goods. So instead of unit started, in that case, if we are the second process, we will call it unit received from the previous department. But here when it says unit started, it is understood that we are the first process. So 300 units we already have from the previous year. 1100 units we started working on this period. This is the current order. And at the end of the year, we are left with 160 units in the closing stock. You can also call it ending work in progress. I normally call it EWIP, or ending work in progress. So this ending work in progress, which is 160 units, are 80% complete to material and 50% complete to conversion costs so far. Now what to do? Everybody should know that the very first calculation, whether it is required or not in the question, you must calculate the physical flow. Alternatively, it is known as quantity schedule. How it is done? It's very, very simple. So I'm doing it here. Your first step is to calculate the quantity schedule, also known as physical flow of good. How do we begin? Always start with beginning work in progress. So we already have, that's 300 units. It's logical. We started off our year, 300 units were in process. Okay, we took additional orders, units started. So how many units we started further? 1100. So when you add them, you get 1400, and you can call it units to account for. That means as a production manager of this department, I am responsible for these 1400 units. So what if my superiors, they question me, what about these 1400 units? What happened to them? My answer is going to be like this. Now, if you look at the question, it says closing stock is 160 units. So out of 1400, if 160 units are still in process, what happened to the rest? So 1400 minus 160. Remaining has been completed. That is 1240. That is how I account for. So what you need to remember is, when we have units to account for, from units to account for, if you minus your closing work in progress, ending work in progress, you will get completed units. If you are given completed units, from 1400 you minus completed units, you will get ending work in progress. So one of the information will be given to you in the question. So from units to account for, ideally if you minus your ending work in progress, you will get the units completed. So this is the first part done. We know the breakup. 300 units we started off with, 1100 units we took a fresh order, total 1400 units we had to complete. Out of 1400 units, 160 units are still in process at the year end, remaining has been completed. The second working is known as units started and completed this year. So if you look at this, 1240 are the total units we completed, which includes some units from the beginning, from last year. So if the total units which we completed this year is 1240, which includes 300 from previous year, so how many did we started and completed this year? This is the working. Please note, we call it units started and completed. Units started and completed. Formula is very simple. If I use the short form, started and completed is equal to units completed minus beginning work in progress. So if you look at on top, 1240 units have been completed. If I minus the beginning work in progress, that is 300 units. We get 940 units. These are units started and completed this year. So now it makes sense. See, total units completed 1240. Out of 1240 units which we completed, 300s were from the last year, the previous year, and 940 are from actually this 1100. Which was the fresh order we took. So units started and completed, what you need to remember is how to calculate units started and completed. Units completed minus beginning work in progress. Next step, which is very important, equivalent production in units. You can call it EUP. Now, when we calculating equivalent production in units, we need to see what information is given in the question. Like if you look at this, when you look at degree of completion, we are given material separate and conversion cost separate. So if material and conversion cost are given separately, we need to have two columns. So I will have a column here for materials. and here for conversion cost. Now, how we begin this working? We need to understand the first step is we start with beginning work in progress. Beginning work in progress, if you look at, there are 300 units. So I'm writing 300 units. Look at the stage of completion for material. It is 60% complete already. So the remaining percentage we have to complete now, because our job is to complete the beginning work in progress. If it is 60% complete already to material, remaining 40% we are going to complete it now. And this would be 120 units. Now when you look at the degree of completion for conversion cost, it says 70%. It's already complete 70%. Remaining 30%. So I'm putting a reverse slash and I'm putting 30% here. That means this 300 would now be multiplied by 30%. And this will equal to 90 units. This is how we start equivalent production in units. If we have beginning work in progress, look at the remaining percentage. The number of units multiply by the remaining percentage. It's 60% already, total is 100%, 60 minus 100 is 40. So I'm going to complete it material wise 40%. So 300 into 40%, I got this. Same 300 units are 70% complete as to conversion cost. So what I have to do is remaining 30% is to be completed. So 300 into 30, I got this. So this is the first step. Look at the beginning work in progress number of units, multiply them by the remaining percentages so that they can be fully completed. Your next step here is add units started and completed. That you can take from here. 940, these are started and completed, so just put them as they are, 940. And the last step is look at ending work in progress. So I'm writing here ending work in progress. First of all, look at the number of units, 160. I'm going to write it 160 units here. And look at the stage of completion for material, 80%. Now for ending work in process, we don't take the remaining, we take the existing percentage. If it is 80, I'm going to take 80%. So 160 into 80% will give you 128 units. Reverse slash, what is the stage of completion for conversion? 50%. So I'm writing 50% here. So this 160 will then be multiplied by 50%, which will give you 80. So now job is done. All we need to do is total them. Okay, add all of these. See how much do you get? 120 plus 940 plus 128. So you're getting 1188, and 90 plus 940 and 80 will give you 1110. These are all units. And you can call it equivalent units of production. Guys, this is the most important part in process costing. If you get equivalent production in units wrong, all other calculations will go wrong. So the next step is to calculate cost per unit. Here you will understand why we calculated this equivalent units of production. So when you calculate cost per unit, take material cost from the current production. This is the material cost, $1,600, and divide it with equivalent production of units for material, which is 1188. 1188. So I'm getting 1.3468. This is material cost per unit. Likewise, look at the conversion cost. I'm just putting CC to save time. Conversion cost is $12,000. And when we divide it by the equivalent units of conversion, it's 1110 units. So I will get 10.8108. Now you can add these two and you will get cost per unit, 12.1576. Cost per unit. Once cost per unit has been calculated, the next step is to allocate the cost. In other words, we are trying to value our finished goods and we are trying to value our closing work in process. So the next step, step number 5, is cost allocated to units completed or completed units, also known as finished goods. Cost allocated to finished goods. How do we begin? Now this is very important. If you look at, these are actually our finished goods. Some of the beginning work in process we completed this year, and some of the fully completed units which we started and completed this year. These are the units, beginning work in process, which we completed further this time, and this is what we started and completed. So likewise, you add these two up. Okay, because the last line, if you could see, these are all ending work in progress. This is your total finished goods in equivalent. This is your equivalent finished goods here. So material wise, you got to add these two both. So material wise, if you look at, we completed 1060 units, equivalent units, and each unit cost us, this is the cost for material, cost us 1.3468. So you'll have something here, 1427.608. Conversion cost, you add both these, which is 90 plus 940 is 1030. 1030 equivalent units for conversion cost. This is the cost per unit for conversion cost multiplied by 10.8108. So you will get the 0.124. Cost already incurred in the beginning work in progress was this much. So if I add cost incurred on beginning work in progress, if I add that 1500, it's 1500. So this is my cost of completed units. So if I add all of them, I get 14,062.732. This is cost allocated to finished units, or you can say cost allocated to completed units. Finished goods, completed units, it's the same thing. My last step is to calculate cost incurred so far on ending work in progress. So the sixth working, the last one is, you can call it also valuation of ending work in progress. How do we begin? Please pay attention to these equivalent units. See, this is ending work in progress. So you come horizontally here, material wise 120 equivalent units, labor and overhead wise, conversion wise 80. So these are the ones which we consider here. Material wise, ending work in progress, how much cost has been incurred in material wise? There has been 128 equivalent units. And cost of material you're going to pick from here, from cost per unit, into 1.3468. And conversion cost, again look at horizontally, ending work in progress, 80 units, 80 equivalent units, into conversion cost you can pick from here, which is 10.8108. So now you can add these two and you will get value of ending work in progress or cost allocated to the closing stock. If I add these two, I get the value of ending work in progress, 1037.2544. Now guys, the litmus test. After doing all this, we need to know, have we done it all correct or not? So you can easily check whether your question is correct or not by doing this. Add the value of closing stock, add the value of units completed, see how much they are. Your finished goods value is coming to 14062.7, so let me take it 14063, okay, rounding it off. And the value of ending work in progress is coming to 1037. Let's round it off. So when I add these two, 14063 plus 1037, I get total cost 15,100. Now, this is the total cost incurred so far on finished goods and your ending work in progress, 15,100. How do we check this? Look at this. Cost incurred during this year on material, 1,600, 12,000. You add these two and add the cost already incurred on opening work in progress. When you add all of them, you will get 15,100. That's how we check whether the question is correct or not. Guys, let me answer a question which you've been asking for a long time regarding materials which I use and recommend for CMA. So let me tell you, when I was a student, I used HOCK International materials to prepare for my CMA exams. I've been using HOCK material for over a decade for all my students, and I strongly recommend you to use HOCK International material in order to get successful for CMA exams. So let me give you a recap of what I've done here, because there are so many steps. A recap is important. I started off with quantity schedule or a physical flow that shows you how many units you had in the beginning work in progress, how many further units you started working on, what is the total units you need to account for, which is 1400 here. Out of 1400 units, what happened? Were all of them complete? No. Out of 1400 units, 1,240 units were completed, remaining were still in progress. This is the first part. So the most important one is equivalent production in units. You have to start with beginning work in progress units multiplied by the remaining percentage. The next step is add units started and completed, which you can calculate here. The working is given already. After that, you take ending work in progress, the existing percentage. For beginning work in progress, remaining percentage. For ending work in progress, existing work percentage. Once you're done with this, go on to cost per unit. Take the current cost, material cost incurred in the current period divided by material equivalent per unit. Take the conversion cost for the current period divided by equivalent units of conversion cost. Once you do that, you get cost per unit. After that, you allocate the cost. Whatever cost has been incurred, you have to allocate it to finished goods and units in process at end. When we're talking about finished units, you got to remember, in finished units, you have to include beginning work in process which has been completed and the unit started and completed. You have to add both these and take them here. This 1060 is an addition of these two. Multiply, because we're talking about material, you multiply by material cost per unit. Conversion cost, again, I added these two. That's how I got 1030 units. And here I got 1060. You add them, multiply by cost per unit from conversion cost, total them, add cost incurred so far from the beginning work in progress in order to get cost of units completed. Once you get cost of units completed, the last job is to find what is the cost of ending work in process. Just take the number of units from here, 128 for material, 80 for conversion. 128 for material, multiply by material cost per unit, 80 for conversion, multiply by conversion cost per unit. You add them, you get value of work in process. In the end, how to check whether the question is correct or not, add the value of work in process, add the value of finished goods, you'll get an amount, and this amount should be equal to the current cost of material and conversion cost added with the cost of work in process. This all calculation which I have done is actually process costing under first in first out method. Process costing under first in first out, which means there is process costing under weighted average method as well. So guys, I have discussed process costing under first in first out method. Under weighted average costing, video is getting too long. I'll be discussing it in the next video. So guys, I would like to remind you once again, the membership for my closed group is on. The link is appearing on the screen. I would request you to join the group if you want additional benefits, insights, regular classes, webinars, workshops. All the details are there. Once you join the link, you will get all the details, the benefits and rewards which you're getting. Regarding this video, if you have any questions and queries, please leave a comment in the comment section. I will respond to you as usual. If you like this video, please share it with your dear and near ones so that others can also benefit. Thank you so very much for your precious time.